Jackie Lappin, and I am so delighted to be here today as part of the Her Story Summit. I think Gertrude is one of the most powerful, incredible women in our entire world. She has done so much for women who want to tell their stories powerfully and to help give folks a leg up in the world if they need a little bit of help in getting started or just improving their lives altogether. Gertrude, my hat's off to you, love. And she is an icon of women who are vulnerable and honest and willing to tell their stories. And she encourages me to really come forth with some of the reasons that I am making the difference that I am in the world. So my mission is to help leaders get on stages, whatever those stages might be, so that you can tell your story and you can help other people. But my story begins when I am just about 4 years old. And my father came home, and you can imagine hearing this. He says to my mom, "Honey, I have to tell you this. I have cancer, the same kind of cancer that killed my parents." Well, you can imagine what that did to a 4-year-old to hear this tragic. At 4, I knew what cancer was. And I knew that people didn't always survive. Obviously, my grandparents were gone. So I was terrified. But the good news is my father survived. But the bad news again was that he was financially wiped out. Now, when that happened, he had no choice but to start over and wanted to move us to another part of the state just to get a new foothold in the world. And he did, but there was only one problem. This part of the state was very, very unwelcoming, let's just say. They didn't like outsiders. Have you ever felt that like yourself? Do you know what that experience is like? I'll bet you have. And as a result, even the kids were like that. And they didn't want anything to do with me. My childhood was spent almost entirely alone. Whew. But as I grew up, I wanted something that made me feel visible, validated. I felt that I had no voice, that these children and their parents had silenced me, that I had no validation in the world. And so I was a Wild Dodger fan. I got that from my dad. And I loved writing. And listening to my intuitive sense, even way back as a child, I said, I'm going to put these two things together. And I am going to become a sports writer. Now, back when that happened, there were no women sports writers. And so I didn't listen to all the people who said, "You're kidding. She'll never succeed. She's a girl." I didn't listen to that. And you can imagine my whole peer group, they already thought that I was weird, that I was different. But I really put my heart and soul into it. And so I read the LA Times every single day to learn how to become a writer. And I geared myself in high school and college to do this. And so I believe that success is the best revenge. At 20, I was at the Detroit Free Press. At 21, I was on the front pages of the Los Angeles Times and at the Associated Press. At 22, I'd co-hosted the television show Dodger Dugout here in Los Angeles. And I went to the Washington Post. So you can imagine that was really extraordinary. I, in fact, even made national television because I was so early in the game and one of the few women who really was talented as a sports writer as young as I was. So that was really an exciting time and validation. So then the next part of my journey is I wanted to have a sports public relations agency. And you can bet what those other guys, and they were all guys, said about this female interloper into their business. Ha! She'll never make it. Well, within the next couple of years, I had a client list that was world class. Avon, Seagram's, Showtime, the Ice Capades, the Harlem Globetrotters, the National Hockey League, the Golf Channel. And I can go on and on and on and on with companies and organizations and sports entities that we represented during that time. And we also became one of the two leading PR agencies in cable television as that was emerging, and pay-per-view. Oh yeah, and I also was in boxing and poker, if you can imagine. I launched the worldwide poker phenomenon with the World Poker Tour. So my story is one of triumph, of coming through all of that, despite the naysayers. And when I got through all of that, I realized that my heart really lay with the people who were making the world a better place. I wrote 2 books in personal growth on my own and realized that these were my kin, the people who were using their books to improve people's lives or help the businesses, or they were in service to humanity somehow. And so I decided to really focus my world on that. And so for about 12 years, we've done radio podcast tours where we introduce authors and leaders to 9,000 radio shows and podcasts with a minimum guarantee of 30 interviews. And I'm proud to say that some of my clients are Don Miguel Ruiz, Ariel Ford, James Twyman, Joe Vitale, Chris and Janet Atwood, Maureen St. Germain, and people who really are the leaders in the personal growth space, the luminaries. But also, if you go to our website, you'd see 80 other testimonials. We've done this for about 300 people over the course of the last couple of years. But about 4 or 5 years ago, some folks said to me, "Can you book me for speaking gigs?" And we said, "No, we don't want to do that, but we know where they are." And so I created something called Speakertunity, the Speaker and Leader Resource Company. And that's where we provide leaders all the contacts so they don't have to do any of the research, so they can get booked on live and virtual stages, on podcasts, on radio shows, on virtual summits, on TEDx's, and lots more, and conferences. We've also got conferences now coming. So we've sorted them all, curated them for you. We've got 130,000 different listings in our regional directories. So people just want to learn and find out how to speak locally, or in their niche directories all across the world. So this became so important to me, to give people the opportunity and the tools and the resources to get on stages, because I want you to be able to deliver your messages in all the places that it counts, wherever you can come into contact with the people that are meaningful to you. So if you're not speaking, I want to tell you what the 10 reasons why speaking is so powerful and essential for leaders and entrepreneurs and coaches. This means that you really need to be thinking seriously about getting off the dime and going out and speak. And let me tell you why that it's really important for you to do this. And these are the 10 powerful reasons why. The first is that you want to grow your authority and the recognition factor for the work that you do in the world. You can grow your status so that not only it makes it more likely that people will book you, but that prospective clients will come to you because they know who you are. It increases your stature, your impact, and your attractability factor, your ability to attract clients for you. Now, that's the first one. It just really makes you a sought after expert in your marketplace. Now, the next one is that by speaking in a room with people, you create an intimacy, a kind of connection to them, a rapport that instills the know, like, and trust factor into the equation. This is where when people can see you, they are much more likely to want more from you, to buy from you, whether it's a book, whether it's a coaching program, whatever it is. Being in a virtual room or a live room with people really gives them a sense of knowing you, of feeling you, of having an emotion about who you are. And that builds a rapport for the relationship to follow. It increases your potential success rate. Most authors will know that the most successful strategies for them are being in a room with people who will buy their book. The same is true of pretty much anything else. The third thing that I really like about speaking is that it gives you anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes to reinforce the audience's pain points and that you have a solution for it. It gives you an opportunity to slowly grow the fact that, well, here's what you're suffering from, and here's how I can help you, by giving them some taste of what they can experience with you when they're in a more formalized relationship, by offering valued content up front without them having to pay for it. They begin to really get a sense that, wow, if I worked with this person, that I would have more even than what I'm getting here. It's a real powerful positioning and gateway to sales. So number 4, if you have a really powerful rags to riches story, some human interest, like I just told you my story and that we are all doing here on HerStory, if you have a powerful story of where you have come from and where you are now, so that you can show people the promised land, how to get there, that is really a valuable benefit to being on stages. By telling your story, people see themselves in you, and they're going to want more from you because they trust you, they feel you, they identify with you. So I really believe that it gives you the time to make them invest with you as well as you investing with them. So number 5. So many people who shy away from the stage do so because they're afraid that they're going to sound salesy. And the truth of the matter is that's not necessarily a way that anybody needs to actually bring themselves forth on stage. The truth of the matter is you can create an invitation, an offer, and invite people to see that you would help them to their next stage. Okay, so I've given you this little bit of information. Now, would it be helpful to go to here? Well, let me invite you to come along with me and I will help you there. So if you are doing it with the gentle, more feminine approach of invitation, this should not be an intimidation factor why you shouldn't get on stages. If you don't know how to do this yourself, there are wonderful teachers out there who can help you learn how to enroll from the stage as opposed to sell from the stage. When I talk about enroll, I'm also talking about getting people to opt into a free gift, not necessarily one that's paid, because some stages won't let you do that won't let you make a sales or offer presentation from the stage. They only will let you do a free gift. And if you do that free gift right, you're going to have lots and lots of people that come into your opt-in list. You start building the relationship, and then you can make the offer to them after they're in your community. So, number 6, speaking is a great way to test what will move an audience to action. You know, the nice thing about starting on local stages, smaller stages, organizations you're already associated with, is that you can see what's going to work. You know, your first presentation may not get a lot of response, but if you go home and tweak it and work it a little bit more and ask people what they thought, you're going to actually dial it in. And speaking gives you that opportunity to do that many times in a situation that is not necessarily do or die. You know, most people understand if you're honest and vulnerable and authentic with them, they'll understand if you're not a polished professional, that you're still just trying to make it work. And you'll get a lot of feedback from people to be able to see what works. Here's number 7. There are thousands and thousands of stages out there. Before the pandemic, they estimated there was 6,500 live stages a day in the US and Canada. Now, there are way more than that. They're well over 10,000, and they're live and they're virtual, and some of them are hybrid, so that you'll be in the room presenting to that group, but it's on live stream. And so people will be able to catch it up on live stream. So that's really a great benefit, but they are out there. There are so many different places and ways that you can speak: meetings, venues, associations, conferences, summits, numerous different ways. Why shouldn't it be you? People are looking for speakers with solutions. Why shouldn't it be you? You have an opportunity to serve your community, and those stages are just waiting to be plucked. So I strongly encourage you to take a look at the reality of the gold mine that is waiting for you. Number 8. So speaking of speaking platforms, it's just as easy to deliver your presentation on a podcast or a summit, virtual summit, as it is to a live virtual meeting or a live meeting or a virtual meeting. And the good part about starting with summits and podcasts and radio shows, if you're intimidated by getting on stages, is that you can actually perfect what you're going to say on stage in question form. The same content divided by the host questions. If you give them questions so that they know what they're going to be asking, and you know what they're going to be asking, allows you to practice what will be great on stage. I did over 100 interviews for my last book, and I'm telling you, I was 10 times better on stage after that, because it was coming so naturally to me. I knew what I was going to say. I knew what the flow was going to be. And you never want to memorize your speech. You just want to memorize the outline so you can speak to each different section and portions of it as you follow along. So the next thing is, it's always nice when somebody pays you to get on stage. But the truth is, there are fewer and fewer organizations that will do that. So don't hold out with this, I'm only going to speak if I get paid. It doesn't work like that in today's world, because those stages are so limited, and they really are for the people that are much more experienced and have a track record. So, and the competition is really stiff for those. So you have to be at the top of your game. But with meetings, venues, and associations, the local kinds of opportunities are endless, and so are the virtual and live summits. And it really allows you to get your skill level up, build your sense of confidence when you actually get on a real stage. 9. That was 9, sorry. I'm off by 1. And so 10 is that one of the real benefits of speaking is that you're talking to one too many instead of just one person. If you are already burned out, tired, exhausted, and you are trying to figure out how to make more money, how to serve more people, speaking is an incredibly effective way to go, because you can get into a room of 30, 40, 100 people and pick up multiple clients instead of having to do the sales process one person at a time. Now, you can then take them into an individual coaching program. You can take them into a mastermind. You can take them into an e-course and maximize your time, but you're not losing all that time in one-on-one conversations, your sales conversations, offer conversations. They know what the offer is. They've expressed their interest. And then it's all a matter of either them coming online and taking advantage of it, or having a briefer discovery call in order for you to actually get them to say yes to working with you. So that's some of the 10 reasons that it's really, really valuable for you to look seriously at speaking. And of course, over here at Speakertunity, we would love to help support you, give you an idea of where the opportunities are for you personally. So I currently invite you to come on over to meet with me. And here's the really cool part. I'm going to be doing a workshop here with Gertrude in about a month called The Path to Total Visibility and Massive Impact. And I'm going to go through a lot of the different tools you need to get booked and all the ways that the things you need to know before you ever get to actually starting to pitch your bookers, and then where you're going to find the easy ways to get booked. So I really hope that this has been of value to you, and I'm so glad that you're here as part of this summit. And I want to thank Gertrude for giving me the opportunity to do this and to share this with you. And I know that here I am on the closing day, so hopefully we saved a little bit of the best for last. So it was so wonderful to see you, and feel free. I am always here to help you find your voice.
Hi, everybody. I am so happy to be here and thankful that I am able to share my story. My name is Jill Beavers Kirby. I go by Dr. JB Kirby. I'm a doctorate prepared nurse practitioner who is a very proud 55 years old, and I currently live in Phoenix, Arizona in the US. I wanted to share my story today about my experience with COVID. So I've been in healthcare for 37 years. I started when I was 18. I became a firefighter and a paramedic. Then I became a registered nurse, then became a nurse practitioner, and then ended up getting my doctorate. So in February of 2021, I was diagnosed with COVID at one of the little walk-in clinics. I let my primary care provider know that I had COVID, and he called me in some antibiotics, some cough medicine, and some steroids, because at this time we weren't quite sure exactly what a person needed to be treated for COVID. And of course, as a nurse practitioner, I have all the little bells and whistles here at my house, and I had a pulse oximeter. That's a little thing you put on your finger to see what the oxygenation is in your blood. So I dig out my pulse oximeter, and it's reading in the low 80s. I assume it's broken because it's old. It's been sitting around in a closet for a while. So I get on my trusty computer and order Amazon and have another pulse oximeter sent to me the next day. So I get the brand new pulse oximeter, and it's also telling me that my oxygenation is in the 80s. Normally, you want this to be 90, 95, 99, 100. Mine was in the 80s. So I remember telling my husband that I was just so tired, and I was continuing to work during this whole time. As a nurse practitioner at that time, I was working from home, seeing patients via telemedicine who had addiction issues. And I didn't take any time off. Like I said, I just kept remembering telling him how tired I was. But I was seeing patients back to back, no breaks, very busy, just didn't have any time. So then I'm not exactly sure what happened, but we decided to call the ambulance. We called 911. And because COVID was so rampant in this area, they asked me to sit out front on my porch to wait for the paramedics to come and assess me. The last thing I remember was the paramedics rolling me into the back of the ambulance. So what they did was they took me to the hospital. I was admitted immediately, and a few hours after I was admitted, my lungs and breathing became so bad that they had to put me into a medically induced coma, where I stayed for about 3 weeks on full life support. So it was during this time that I had all these weird dreams and things that I saw, and all these just weird things going on in my mind. However, one of the things that was consistent during this time was a Caucasian male who was sitting at my bedside every day. And I I know I'm under the effect of medications, of heavy medications, of paralytics and anxiolytics and medications. So I wouldn't remember everything that they were doing to me. But I remember this man sitting beside my bed every day. I couldn't figure out how come this stranger who wasn't affiliated with the hospital could sit at my bed, but yet my family couldn't come to visit me. So this man told me his name was Kevin. He looked to be in his mid to late 30s, maybe early 40s. He had brown hair. And when he was there, the television would always be on because he told me that he used to have something to do with the commercials for one of the networks here in the US. I don't remember if he told me, maybe he didn't tell me, but he would have all of his computer equipment. He would have boxes, big boxes that you would like carry your laptop and other computer things with you, like editing software and things. And those boxes would be sitting in the room also. He told me that when he worked for the network, he had something to do with the commercials and how the commercials got put into television shows and how they were timed out and everything. But it turns out as every day went by and I'm still in this medically induced coma and Kevin is showing up every day, turns out that Kevin was my guardian angel. Now, as a registered nurse and as a nurse practitioner, I've spent the majority of my career in critical care units, working and taking care of patients who were critically ill in that same scenario, put on a ventilator in a medically induced coma. And these, patients, when they came around and would be woke up and they would be recovering from their illness, they would say, "Oh, there is this woman who sat by my bed every night and her name was so and so and she looked like this." And as a healthcare provider, I'm not going to say, "Okay, that's impossible. There's nobody here at the hospital with that name or who looks like that." I'm not going to tell a patient that. Whatever you want to believe and whatever you need to tell yourself so that you heal, totally fine. So I never really put a lot of faith into what people told me. I never really asked patients, "Oh, tell me more about this person." I would just let them tell me their story and, do my duties and move on to the next patient. However, now that it's happened to me, and I know without a doubt that that man was my guardian angel and that he was there keeping an eye on me, I will never doubt another person or another patient when they tell me that they've had a similar experience. So I have had several friends who have lost loved ones, their adult children, their adult sons to either accident or illness or injury. And I never could understand why young people who had so much to contribute to life and had so much life left to live died. But now that I've had this experience of having met my guardian angel, I believe that those people who do die young are there because they need to be somebody else's guardian angel. So I also have seen like Kevin's face in the clouds. Here in Arizona, we have beautiful sunsets and beautiful sunrises. So I always try to go out and take pictures of either one of them or both. And one day I was sitting out in my backyard and I looked up at this cloud formation and it was just kind of weird. I was like, "That's just a really weird formation. Let me go get my phone and take a picture." And so I took the picture. And when I looked at this picture on my computer several days later, I could see Kevin's face in the clouds. And my oldest son happened to be visiting at the time. And I go and grab him and I'm like, "Look at this picture. Do you see this? What do you see in there?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe a face or something." So I said, "Yeah, look, here's this picture. This is Kevin. This is my guardian angel, Kevin." But it was a very surreal experience. Like I said, I was in a coma for about 3 weeks. I spent another week in the hospital. Then I spent a month in rehab. I had to learn how to swallow, how to chew, how to walk. It took me 3 days to figure out how to use a telephone. I eventually went back to work after a couple of months of healing, and I started off part-time and then eventually went back to work full-time. But now that I know why guardian angels exist, and now that I can reason why the good young people have to die so that they can help others in their lives, it all makes sense to me. And it has given me such a sense of peace and understanding. And just that I want to be able to share this with other people so that they know that, yes, there are people looking out for you here and above, and that there is a reason to what we might think sometimes is madness. So it's because of my experience in healthcare and all the years and all the people that I've been able to help that I have, I'm still continuing to work full time as a nurse practitioner. I have also started a website to provide just health and wellness information in an easy to understand format. I hear from my patients so much about how, can you explain this to me? Can you explain that to me? I just wanted to be able to help people and help them understand what's going on with their health. Why are they on a certain blood pressure medicine? Why are they feeling the way they do? Why do your hormones change as you get older? Just those kinds of everyday questions that I hear from my patients. I write stories up about that so that people can understand their health information in an easy to use format. And that's my story.
Absolutely wonderful, Jill. Wow, what an experience you've gone through, though. You know, for people who've never had a near death experience, this could sound unbelievable, far fetched, but I've had a similar experience. I collapsed with congestive heart failure while on holiday in a rice field in Indonesia.
Oh my goodness.
I was in intensive care for 5 days and felt a presence that was there beside me the whole time. And I'm here to share that story as well. Now, COVID is a very frightening thing. There's so many of us unsure what is out there, what it feels like. Can you share a little bit about how it's impacted and affected you on a physical level?
So, yes, I feel that it has taken me a complete year to recover. And I'm not back to 100%. I'm definitely not back to where I was pre COVID. I have a new baseline now. But over the past year, I was pretty healthy. I have some arthritis issues, but other than that, I'm healthy. I don't have high blood pressure, diabetes. I don't have anything going on other than some arthritis. So I never smoked. So for my lungs to be impacted that bad, that quick was kind of surprising. But since COVID, unfortunately, I've had about 10 or 11 severe infections. And there's studies coming out that are showing that this is sort of common among people who've had serious, significant COVID issues. I've had 8 urinary tract infections in the past 12 months. And I'm not a person who gets urinary tract infections. You know, some people are prone to them and some people are on medicine to suppress it. That's never been me. And I get an infection in my intestines called colitis. And I've been to different doctors, different specialists for both of those issues, and they're trying to figure out why this keeps happening. And the overall arching issue is, well, this is your new baseline. Your immune system is still probably not back to 100%. The other issue I have, while I was hospitalized, once they stopped the medicine to put me in the coma, it took a very long time for me to wake up. And I was very confused, very, very confused. I thought I was in New York City. I thought I was in Illinois. You know, the whole time I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. And I would tell them, they would ask me, where are you? And I'd be like, New York City. And they wouldn't correct me. They would just be like, okay, she's in New York today. But I do have some memory issues. Like I said, the last thing I remember from that event is them putting me into the back of the ambulance. Events prior to that February day, like what I did that previous Thanksgiving, what I did that previous Christmas, were gone. My friends and family have helped me fill in some of those blanks, but I do still have some issues with memory. So I take a lot of notes, write a lot of things down. If I'm, working with somebody, I'll tell them I apologize if I've sent this twice because, I've got some memory issues now. So they are finding, like I said, there are some scientific studies being done that these issues are common amongst people who had serious COVID and among the long haulers. So, the last time I had a bad infection was January 27th. So it's been almost 3 months. So that's awesome for me. So I'm hoping my immune system is getting stronger.
Yeah, it takes a while. Now, to go back to the presence of angels, you are a scientific woman. You came from a scientific background as a nurse, your clinical training. What did the presence of this angel feel like? I have always said to people, I've had a spirit-led life. I am told to go left or right. And if I follow that voice, I've avoided catastrophic events. I avoided a mass shooting when I was in South Africa once because of that voice. Some people don't know how to tune into that guardian angel. What have you learned since this that could help other people?
Um, I'm trying to think back how I really felt about that. Like I said, when patients would tell me about people being in their room and sitting by their bedside while they were out of it, I would just kind of look at them like, oh, okay, fine. I didn't say that's crazy, that doesn't exist. What are you talking about? I never wanted to make them feel bad about their idea because I truly believe that whatever you think is going to, the power of thinking. And if you think something's going to help you get better, then by all means think it. Medicine is called the practice of medicine because we're still practicing every day. We're still learning new things every day. There are no absolutes in medicine. And I've learned that over my 37 years. But now when I do hear and I think back to my patients who have told me about their experiences, now I wish I would have asked them more. But it has definitely changed my thoughts on how I look at life. I realize life is very short and I'm not going to settle anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it and how I want to do it. If I want to go visit somebody, take a trip and go visit somebody across the US, I'm going to do it. But I've also learned not to fear death. I've learned that I am here. I'm experiencing life. I'm going to make it the best I can make it. And when I die, I die. And I hope my family will look back on, my life and say, she lived a full life and she was happy in her life.
That's beautiful to know. Yeah, you're right. This life is very, very fleeting. And the sad thing as human beings is we think we have control of our lives and we don't. It's a gift that we have to use to the fullest while we have it. So you've had quite a few little wake up calls there and knowings that have come out of this experience as well, which is absolutely beautiful to observe. So if there was somebody who's listening in right now, who has family, who has a friend, who has a relative who's sick with COVID, what advice could you give them so they can pull through this difficult time?
I would recommend that if they have a higher power that they believe in, then pray to that person. I come from a religious family, a Christian family, a Southern Baptist family. And I know my family sent out a lot of prayers and involved me in a lot of prayer chains. So I would say keep believing, never give up hope. Listen to what the medical professionals are telling you, but don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to say, what if we did XYZ instead? Or what if we didn't do XYZ instead? As a consumer of healthcare and me being a healthcare provider, you're essentially hiring me to do a job. So it's totally okay to ask, what if I don't start that medication? What are my other options? what if I don't get that test done? How else can we look at that? And I encourage people to question that, just like they would question somebody working on their car. You would question the mechanic. Do I really need to get that done right now? It's okay to ask your healthcare provider the same thing. Do I need that medicine? Do I need that expensive test? Do I need to do this procedure? Or what are my other options? So it's totally okay to ask about other options. Like I said, continue to believe in your higher power and pray, and just never give up hope.
Yeah, hope is the one thing that sustains us, that keeps us going. So I'm hoping that if there's anybody out there who has listened to this interview, you have been empowered with a few little nuggets of wisdom on how to move forward. Jill, what you've gone through is phenomenal. I'm just so glad that you are living life to the full. And that's the thing that happens when you have this brush with death, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no holding
Yes.
back. You do what you want, you experience what you want to experience, knowing that this life is fleeting and you might not get a chance to do it again. So thank you so much for coming online, Jill, and sharing this with us. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in today. COVID is affecting all of us, no matter where you are in the world, whether it means you get it or somebody else gets it. This is an amazing video that really gives us hope that there is light behind COVID, that you can survive it, you can move on with your life. So Jill, don't go away. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody. I will be back again tomorrow with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And bye for now.
First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for having me today. My name is Sarah Monk. I'm 32 years old and I'm from Ontario, Canada. And as a conscious living writer, teacher, and advanced certified advanced crystal master, I am all too familiar with the importance of embracing your authentic self, but it hasn't always been this way. In fact, my journey begins at just 2.5 years old at my grandparents' house. So I'm 2.5 years old and I decide to climb down the stairs into the basement, and I see this man leaning up against the wall in the hallway. His eyes are red, his hair is gray, matted, knotted, and his arms fade out at the sides. And when he sees me looking at him, that's when I'm chased down the hallway. I try to tell my parents that there's a man in the basement, but of course, at the age of 2.5 years old, I probably said man, basement, person downstairs or something like that. And they didn't believe me. But when the cupboards started opening up on their own accord and the huge glass chandelier over the dining room table started spinning, my family quickly changed their mind. When I was a child, my mom would tell me that I had a natural gift of communicating with the spiritual realm. But because of that early experience with the earthbound spirit and other experiences like it over the years, I was really scared of the spiritual side of life. And because I had no mentors to guide me forward, I had no one to help me navigate what I was going through. I decided at a really young age to close what I call the spiritual door. So basically, I was closing myself off from my authentic self. And I ended up running from my spiritual side for the next 2 decades until I was in a car accident with a combine harvester. And I found myself in the hospital for months with an unknown illness. So it was on this journey that I rediscovered my true nature, that I'm not just a physical being, I'm also a spiritual being. And I went from a place of fear to one of acceptance of who I am. Now, of course, my journey of opening back up to my spiritual self didn't happen overnight. The turning point came after months of being in the hospital. I had lost all hope. And at the time, I found myself in the deep unknown, and I didn't know if I was going to survive. And I remember thinking that, there's got to be something that changes. There's got to be something more to life. I don't want to be on this journey all alone anymore. So I gathered my courage and I asked the universe for help. In the days that followed that request for help, it's like that spiritual door just went wide open, and I started having spiritual experiences again. And one of those experiences happened at the hospital gift shop while I was visiting with my neighbor from town. And we had entered the gift shop when a book immediately caught my attention across excuse me, across the store. So I walked to the book, and the book was called You're Going to Be Okay by Holly Girth. And so even though I was attracted to the book, when I opened the book, however, I found myself second guessing that initial attraction because the book was full of Bible references. And even though I was confirmed as a Catholic as a child, I never really felt that Christianity completely resonated with me. So I really felt unsure as to whether that book was for me. So I put the book back, but as I was walking away, that book flew off the shelf several feet away from the wall. So when that happened, I knew that that book had something that I really needed to read. But when I picked it up, I was like, okay, but what about money? I had been in the hospital for months. I'm not sure if I want to spend my money on this book. So about 5 minutes later, I put the book back. My neighbor comes up to me and she says, you know what? I think I'm going to buy that book you were looking at, and you can read it first and I will read it after you. So I'm unsure of the book. It flies off the wall. I'm sure about the money. My neighbor, who was not even next to me when I was looking at the book, offers to buy the book and has me read it first. So clearly I really needed that book, aside from the name You're Going to Be Okay. So after these experiences, I kept that spiritual door wide open, but it wasn't until 2 years after that initial car accident that I was in a second car accident and a series of synchronicities that my actual business started. So 2 weeks after the second car accident, I found myself in my usual nightmare where my car is about to roll over. Now, this dream is different than the other ones because there's an angel standing outside of my car door. And as my car is about to roll over, he says, release the brakes. So I release the brakes and my car doesn't flip over. When I wake up, I realize that he was telling me to let go of the fear. It's time to move forward. So I decided to do an oracle card reading to find out how I can move forward. And of course, the cards that came up were release your fears, it's time to move forward, and you're being called into teaching and healing. So I asked to be shown the way. And late that night, around 11 o'clock at night, suddenly out of nowhere, I remember about this book sale that happens in the mall a couple times a year that my coworker had told me about months before. I had no idea when this book sale happened, and I'm a huge book lover. So when I remembered about it, I went online to research it, and it turns out that the book sale started the next morning. So that morning, I got ready and I wanted to leave the house first thing. I wanted first pick of those books. I didn't want to miss out on any of the good stuff. Now, of course, I was delayed by traffic on my way there. And so by the time I got there, people were already looking through the books. And I found myself next to this woman, and her arms were absolutely full of books. And we got into a conversation. About 30 minutes after we were talking, she invites me to her house. Now, I normally don't go home with strangers, but because of all the series of events that led me to that moment, I believe that I was exactly where I needed to be, and I needed to go home with that lady. So a few days after I met her, I went to her house. We had tea, cake, and salad. And at the end of the conversation, she says, Sarah, why do you think we met today? And I said, I have no idea. You tell me. And she's like, well, I asked the universe for a teacher, and I think you're that teacher. So, as they say, when you're ready, the teacher will appear. Well, clearly, I was the teacher in that circumstance. So, I don't believe in coincidences. And I believe that deep down, that I was meant to help people on a spiritual journey. And so, days after that experience, I started my spiritual blog. And then, shortly after that, I started healing services with my clients. Now, of course, my business evolved with me over the years. It's no longer exactly the same as it was then. Today, I am passionate about helping those on a spiritual journey to reconnect with their hearts so that they can create the life of their dreams. And I do that through my new program, the Crystal Companions program, where I teach my students how to confidently integrate crystals into their daily lives so that they can begin to transform their lives with the assistance of their crystal companions. And also, I am writing a memoir about my spiritual awakening experience with hopes that it's going to be a beacon of light for those who find themselves in the unknown.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing story with us. It sounds to me like you found your intuitive gifts at a very, very early age. Now, a lot of people have these gifts. They have no idea how to harness them, how to tap into them. What would your advice be for somebody who is sensing that they have something special? They don't know how to articulate it. You were only what, 2 years old when you discovered yours. When did you finally harness it and manage to tap into it and start to use it?
Well, even though I said that I closed the spiritual door at a young age, it never really completely closed. It's like it was always open a crack. So over the years growing up, I would have an experience. And for example, my friend's parent who was deceased would show up and I would tell my friend, like your parent is here. And as soon as I had these experiences, I got scared again and I'm like, nope, I don't want this, close the door. Right. So it's not that I completely shut myself off over the years. What I think happened is, so information on the subtle level travels via the path of least resistance. So because I was so scared of seeing on the intuitive level, I think my gifts over the years shifted into feeling. And I am still working on opening up my sight to seeing earthbound spirits again today. It's a huge process to get back open. So what I would say to someone who is just starting out, so first of all, I just want to say that we all have the ability to communicate with the spiritual. We're all spiritual beings. If you think about your physical senses, your taste, smell, sight, hearing, and feeling, those are the exact same things that we have on the intuitive level. So you have your intuitive sense of taste, smell, seeing, knowing, feeling, and hearing. It's happening at a faster speed than the speed of light because physical matter is slower than the speed of light. And so that's how we're able to sense. But on the spiritual level, things are happening at a much more rapidly. So for example, if you think about somebody and then they call you, it's because you connected with them on that energetic level first. So the information travels via the path of least resistance. So I would say, see where you're open first, and that will be the easiest way to start connecting with the spiritual. So whether that's feeling, if you've ever gone into a room and you feel the energy after an argument or after a fight, that's feeling on the energetic level. If you just know something about somebody, that's knowing. If you have conversations to yourself all day long, you're most likely also speaking to your spiritual team, the guides and angels who are here to assist you in this lifetime, and it will come in your own voice, but on the very subtle level. And then also seeing, if you dream at night, well, you're connecting with the spiritual realms at night as well. And that's a method of seeing. So start where you are more open, and I suppose go from there. Does that answer your question?
It
All right.
certainly
I'm on a
does.
tangent.
Well, thank you everybody who tuned in today from all over the world. The Her Story movement is attracting some phenomenal women.
Yeah.
Have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Sarah, thank you again for coming and gracing us with your presence and your knowledge today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.